Hello, welcome to Into the Fire, a Burning Coal Theater Company podcast series.
Hi, this is Jerome Davis. I'm the Artistic Director of Burning Coal Theater Company, and I'd like to welcome everyone to Into the Fire, the Burning Coal Theater Company podcast series on all things theatrical. Once a year, our great friend, the So-and-So bookstore just down Person Street from Burning Coal, is gracious enough to allow us to host one of our events for the podcast related to our production of KidsWrite, which we do every May, toward the end of May. This year, the performance dates for KidsWrite at Burning Coal are the 23rd and 24th of May. And tickets are available at burningcoal.org, $10 a piece. And you can find further information about that, and you can purchase your tickets online at burningcoal.org, or you can give us a ring at 919-834-4001. We have a number of playwrights here to talk with us today, young people who submitted their plays, and their plays were selected out of a much larger pool of submitted works. And so we're going to be talking with 5 of them this afternoon. But before we do that, we wanted to say a few words with and ask a few questions of Susan Gross, who is the director for the second time for KidsWrite. Is that right? Yeah. And Susan, first of all, welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
I know you've got to get over to the rehearsal pretty quickly. How's it going this year? How do you feel, broadly speaking, about that production?
I think it's going really well. I was very impressed with all of the plays. They're, to me, just fantastic group of plays. Every year I did it last year, but I'm really blown away this year by the quality of the scripts.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great. And I believe there are 7 this year?
7, yes.
Yeah, 7 different plays, and they're short plays, right? The shortest is around 10 or 12 minutes, something like that. And the longest is a little nearer to 20 minutes, maybe, something like that. Yeah, and it'll run a little bit under 2 hours. You are an actor. You're a member of Actors Equity Associations. You're a professional actor. You're also a director, obviously, but you have also written quite a bit. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So tell me about the difference between those disciplines. They all seem to sort of tie up together, and often those people can all be found in one room, but they're not often found in one body.
Person, I think I really love exploring all types of, theater, whether it's acting, directing, or writing. I think because I started out as an actor, I just really loved, I learned from so many directors that I worked with, whether it was in college or community theater or professional theater, that really inspired me to want to direct as well. And I kind of borrowed ideas from them, and I studied them. And I think it's important as an actor or any sort of medium you're doing to kind of study and watch what other people do, because you really learn from doing that. And then the writing came. I think I had moved to New York, and I went to some sort of theater fair or something in my neighborhood in Long Island City, Queens, and I met an artistic director of a theater. He was like, "Do you have any plays? We're looking for some one-acts for our festival." And I was like, "Yeah, I do."
As it turns
out.
But
I didn't know. I hadn't written anything. And so then I wrote it, and it inspired me to write and submit it. Probably very much like how you're doing it. You hear, "Oh, I should submit this play," and they accepted it, and it just changed my life. I found it so fascinating. They used my play at the auditions, and I loved hearing what other actors did with it, even though I had my own idea about what it would be like. But it was just, to me, really satisfying to see what other people created with it.
So your first act of creativity was a bald-faced lie.
Yeah, essentially, kind of. I mean, I had ideas, and I'd written a little bit, but I didn't have anything.
Well, let me ask you about that. That's something that always interests me. When I read a play as a director myself, and I'm an actor as well, I see it in my mind. I see it happening in front of me. Do you have that sensation?
Yes.
Or no? Yeah.
Yeah. You mean as you're writing?
Well, or as you're reading it,
Yeah.
learning your lines or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I usually visualize it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The particular plays that you're working on right now are have a broad range of subjects, shall we say? And
Very.
Can you talk a little bit about how, as a director, you would approach such disparate material as
Yeah. It was started out with like casting, and finding the right people for the roles, and using the same actors for, like, I have like most of the actors are doing 2, 3, sometimes 4 or 5 different pieces in the show.
Right.
And so it was challenging to like figure out the order of the pieces because they are so different. But I sort of felt like there was like a common theme amongst a lot of them, and it was just like interesting to see. Yeah, like young love, there was that, like longing, like hope. Like I found all these kind of themes that I could tie together. So I tried to like order the shows to complement each other.
I see. Do the plays have any moments that are difficult to conceive of as a director, that you had to really work to figure out how to produce the play or how to make it happen in front of an audience, given our limited budget, I should say?
Yes, there was one. I think one of the playwrights is here. It's Titanium Lovers, which was an amazing script. But yes, as far as like the technical aspects, I had to really be creative with trying to figure out how to present it. But I think we've done a really great job. I don't want to do any spoilers, so.
Okay. We won't give
But
any
yeah,
more.
but it does involve like humanoid robots, and it's set in the future. But it's a really beautiful script. It's kind of heartbreaking, and yeah.
Okay. I know that you have talked to some, if not all, the playwrights about certain changes that you might recommend for them. Thinking about all that, could you think of one or two sort of suggestions, that you could sort of apply to any young playwright?
Yeah, I would say like when you're first, it depends on where you want to have your play produced. And if you want to have it produced somewhere, that doesn't have like a huge budget, I would say minimal characters,
Right.
Minimal settings, things that you feel you could stage easily, whether it's, just technical things, I guess, really. Just the simpler the better, really.
Right.
You
Make
know.
it simple.
Yeah.
What last question for you, because I know you've got to get over to rehearsal. What in our business motivates you? What inspires you, or who inspires you?
In theater?
Yeah.
Well, I love the National Theatre in London. So I love watching either online or going to London. I think you and I have that in common.
Yes,
we love
do.
going to.
Yeah.
My husband is from England, which is fortunate because we go back like once a year and we go to see theater there, and I really enjoy it. I also lived in New York, so definitely was inspired when I lived there and seeing shows. I find it's more accessible in England for some reason. Like I feel like Broadway is quite expensive, and then you go to England, and I feel like the shows are like, I don't know, typically it's a broader range of audience members, and I find that like really cool.
They figured out in England that if they subsidize smaller theaters, those smaller theaters will generate work that is the next wave, you know, and suddenly you've got 10 plays on their version of Broadway, which is the West End, that all started out in 150 seat or 200 seat theaters, and so they're seeding the ground, I think, for future success.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think probably because of real estate prices in New York and the fact that it's just an island, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, England is an island too, but it's a big island compared to Manhattan. And so they haven't quite worked out yet how to do that in a city where every square foot of space is critically important and expensive.
Yeah. One of the playwrights I do like is Annie Baker, and I think one of our young playwrights really likes Annie Baker as well, and we spoke about it. So I think that's pretty cool to have that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's one of the greats and an American writer as well. Very good. Susan Gross, I would say thank you again, but I know you have to race out
Yes.
to get to rehearsal. So
Well, thank you for having me.
So thank you, Susan.
I'm looking forward to listening to the podcast and all the writers.
Yeah, very
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. And Abby, our development director, who's next for
If we
us?
can have Jack and Abigail.
Jack and Abigail, come on up. Abigail, would you introduce yourselves? Let's hear your full name or your first and last name. You don't have to give your middle name, but your name and the school you go to and which play you wrote for us.
Yeah, awesome. I'm Abigail Zwan. I usually go by Abby. I go to Seaforth High School, and I wrote the play Ribbing.
Ribbing. Okay, very good. And Jack?
Hi, I'm Jack Mully, and I go to Franklin Academy Middle, and I wrote with 4 other writers, Gum Runners.
And was it 4? Is it 5? Or
4.
is it 4? We're counting as we go.
Yeah.
We don't want to overcharge here. Jack, what is Ribbing about, broadly speaking? Don't give too much away, but what is the play about?
I wrote Gum Runners.
Oh, sorry. She wrote Ribbing. That's right.
So it's a group of 2nd graders, and the school has banned gum, and they are trying to win it back, and it turns into this Godfather Matilda type show.
Right. Where did you come up with that idea? Was that one of the 5 of you?
Yes, our class sat down, all 9 of us sat down at the table, and we were like, what are good play ideas to submit to Burning Coal? Because we won last year and the year before, so we're trying to
hit the trifecta.
Yep.
Okay, and Jack, is Gum Runners is obviously, I mean, just the title is funny, but the conceit of the play sounds like a comedy too. Was that something you set out to do? Or,
Yep.
And did all of the group want to do that, or do you have to convince some of the group?
We were all going very comedic, fast-paced.
Okay. And Abby, tell us a little bit about your play, about Ribbing.
So Ribbing is kind of about this girl. It's kind of set in like late 1800s-ish, and it's about this girl who she has a really important decision to make. So she goes to a pastor for help, but he kind of gets pulled into it in a way he wasn't expecting. So
It sounds like an Ibsen play. Is it a comedy? Or
Yeah, it is.
It is a comedy. Okay, good. And was that, so you wrote by yourself?
I did, yes.
Yeah, is that something you started out with an idea for, or where do the ideas come? Do they come before you start writing? Do you start writing and then hear voices? Some writers talk about hearing voices talking to them, and so how does that idea come into your mind?
Well, for this play, it was really unique because most of the time I start out with like a story idea, and then I'll kind of think of characters that fit in the story. But I woke up in the middle of the night one night just with the idea of my character Sophie, and I just like heard her voice so clearly, which is something that's never happened before. Mm-hmm. So I kind of built the story around a character, which, I mean, I've never done that before, so it was a really unique experience.
You heard her voice. Did you see her as well?
No, I don't really see characters, which is kind of interesting, but it makes it more fun to see kind of how like actors portray it. Like, right. I really like that.
Right. And are you an actor yourself?
I am, yes.
Yeah, and what have you done? Tell us some of your credits.
Well, this spring I was in my school's production of Anastasia. I was Countess Lily, so that was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I'm currently an ensemble member in Deepak Rising Stars, which is like this awards program. So we have that performance next week, so I'm really excited for that.
That's terrific. And Jack, how about you? Are you an actor as well?
I am an actor and I am a sound technician. So I work with a couple of community theaters, and then I've somehow worked my way up into the high school program when I'm still in middle school, because they have me running the sound.
Because nobody else wants to
do it
or knows how to do it. Yeah, that's often the case. Susan, do you need anything else from us before you're just okay? You have a few more minutes. I wanted to make sure she wasn't lingering back there because I had forgotten something or she had forgotten something. Okay, Jack, when you submitted the play, what was your expectation at that point? Did you have a good feeling that you were going to win, or?
Well, our class wrote 2 plays, and while we did a table read, our class thought that they were gonna win, and we were so bound to them winning that we didn't believe in ourselves. But once we got the email saying that we won, that was yeah.
That's nice. I remember that both of those were quite interesting. If it's the other one I'm thinking about. How about you, Abigail? Did you have a sense from the start that this was something that was stageable and that would be interesting to people, or?
I knew I would be interested in it, but I wrote it and I was kind of on a time crunch, and so I finished it and I was like, this is not like very good, but I'm just gonna submit it. And then I was really shocked when I won, but I'm really grateful to be able to have gotten feedback and then kind of have that assurance that like it was good. So that was kind of an interesting, I don't know, it was not what I was expecting, but I'm so grateful for this opportunity.
Sure. A lot of playwrights that I know say that you should just write and then go back and edit it, and that the editing process is where the real work begins, But it sounds like you had a real inspiration there. What other inspirations do you have in your life as far as the arts go? Do you have theater experiences that have moved you into the direction of being a writer or being an actor? Not so much.
I think I do. It's just kind of hard to pinpoint, I think. Definitely, I've always really been into writing, and I think for me getting into playwriting, my theater teacher actually recommended it because she knew I liked writing. So definitely that is kind of what pushed me into playwriting.
Have you written in other forms?
Yeah, I did a lot of short stories, but I really like the format of playwriting. Like, I love writing dialogue, so it just kind of was a natural switch for me, so I really liked that.
Okay. How about you, Jack? Do you have any inspirations from your life, of any plays you've seen or read, or performances that have blown you away, or anything like that?
I just went to England a couple of months ago, and I saw a couple of Western shows. So those
What'd you
really,
see?
Hadestown, The Play That Goes Wrong, and what's the other one? Oh, Six. So.
Okay. The Play That Goes Wrong and Six are both produced by the same producer, small production company. And we did a production years ago of Taming of the Shrew, and the actor who played Petruchio in that production met a young lady who was my assistant director at the time. They ended up getting married, moving to England, and now she's the assistant of the guy who produces those plays. She's like reading scripts and going, you should do that one, you should do that one. She's got just a great job, and it all happened because she met her future husband at Burning Coal. So we're very proud of her for that. Well, both of you, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We look forward to seeing your plays opening on the 23rd, which is this Friday night. It's coming up soon. We hope you'll help us spread the word about it and bring your family and friends, and we look forward to seeing what you've cooked up.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Abigail, who's next?
Do one or two next?
Let's do one next.
Sweet.
Kate, would you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us what school you're from and what play you have submitted?
Hi, my name is Tate Capes. I am a sophomore currently at Millbrook High School, and I wrote the play Orpheus.
Orpheus, okay. And was that your first play, Tate?
Well, I've written like 2 completed plays, and I have a lot of just like backloaded like drafts just sitting in my Google Docs. But like this was, the one that I wrote for Burning Coal unsubmitted. My other plays were just like first attempts. So
tell me about those drafts. Why did this one move to the forefront and those stay back? What's that process like?
I think I was like originally I was still trying to find my voice as a writer, and Orpheus and a few others just kind of felt like the point of okay, I have a goal towards I have like a thing to finish, I have a goal to complete, there's a thing to do, and I'm gonna do it. And that was really just the moment where everything culminated, and I think I finally found a voice to write in, and I wrote it, and it was just, it was done.
So they say necessity is the mother of invention. So the fact that you had that deadline looming in front of you made you find, that's interesting. I can imagine a writer saying it made me finish the play, but to say it made me find my voice is really interesting. So tell me about that. What do you think what caused that? What's that about?
Well, I also, at the time when I started writing Orpheus, I had been writing or reading a lot of other plays, and I mean, I had before, but it was just kind of like, I discovered Eurydice by Sarah Rule, and that was just kind of like, I started getting images in my head, and I was like, okay, I can work with this. There was also an album at the time that I was listening to. It was called Orphe by Johan Johansson, and it's just an album that is like a interpretation of Orpheus and Eurydice, and so I was like, okay, and that really inspired me with aesthetically and stuff to start writing. So like, I think that, and then the goal, it was also a project for school. I have this thing called the personal project, and you have to do, like one thing, and you have to write about it and your journey. And so I picked writing a play, and that was like finishing that for school, and then being like, I'm gonna submit this to Burning Coal, which I've wanted to do for years, and then it just felt like everything lined up perfectly.
Is your Orpheus a response to Sarah Rule's Eurydice?
I wrote a lot of this in the essay I had to write for school, but I think it was like, I had read a lot during my research for the play of like, read a lot of different versions of the Orpheus myth, and it was just kind of like, I found the place where I felt Orpheus was like lacking or missing, or the part that I thought I saw in the Orpheus and Eurydice myth, and I wrote that. So like, Sarah Rule definitely was the jumping off point, but like, I think I found my little nook and cranny in that myth and just like stuck myself in it.
It's almost like a musician listening to see when there's an opening to play the next note or something like that. That's really interesting. You talked about reading a lot of plays. When did that start? You're not that old, I assume. When did you start reading plays?
Yeah, that started about in my 7th grade year. My English teacher was an actor. He performed in some plays that I went to go see.
Who is that?
How
soon did I forget?
I just remember calling him Mr. Henry. I don't think I remember his last name. But we were doing the EOG, and I finished super early. I'm a really quick test taker, and then he knew I was like really into theater, and so he handed me this huge book that was just an anthology of plays, and I started reading it. And I think the first one I read was Oedipus Rex, and then I read Endgame by Samuel Beckett, and I was just obsessed. And Samuel Beckett also is one of my big inspirations for writing. I really love absurdism, but I think I was just like a knowledge from more and more, like how can I just like consume all of this stuff, and like now my like shelves are just filled with like a bunch of plays and all that stuff, and so I try to read as much as I can now.
That's good. What about Beckett moved you, do you think?
I think just the strangeness and the profound existentialism of it, really, because I mean, we had just been getting out of COVID, and so like, finding a like part of me that was like, life is kind of pointless right now, it feels, and then Beckett told me why I was right, and it was kind of like that, but yeah.
And he wrote it many years before, obviously, the pandemic. There's a lot of humor in Beckett, though, too. It is existential, and there is a bit of nihilism in it, I think. But there's also struggle, it seems to me. The characters in that play don't ever give up, I think.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Endgame, but I'm also thinking of Waiting for Godot and Krapp's Last Tape, if you know that one.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful, maybe my favorite Beckett play. Who else was in that book? That was a book, an anthology of classic theater, I assume.
I think those were the two I read before the time ran out and I had to put it back. But I noticed The Glass Menagerie, which now I've read.
Yeah.
But there were a few Tennessee Williams books. I think Ibsen was in there.
Sure.
Chekhov. Just a lot of like, it went from like ancient Greek to like romanticism to like realism. And then it just went all the way to the avant-gardes, which ended in Beckett. So,
into the 50s, 1950s. What about more recent playwrights? You mentioned Sarah Rule. Are there more recent writers whose work inspire you?
Well, I really have a lot of respect for Annie Baker. I just read the flick yesterday.
Yeah, that's a great book.
It's so great. But Sarah Rule has always been an inspiration. She's just fantastic. Carol Churchill is just so fascinating to me. I can't remember the name of the playwright, but he wrote Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Tom Stoppard.
Yeah, Tom Stoppard.
Yeah.
I love. But yeah, just anything, I'll probably read it if it's a play.
Yeah, good. That's good. And there's a lot of humor in those writers' work. Were you thinking about that when you were writing your Orpheus? Were you thinking about, I know this will sound trivial, but laugh lines, or how to keep the audience from...
I think there is one line, and it's about public bathrooms, and that one just kind of came out of my head. But usually, Orpheus is just, the play is approached as, meditation on mental health and suicide. And so it just kind of felt like to keep a respectful, tone throughout the play, it was trying to keep, seriousness and space for there to be, thoughts and, from the audience, which was the original approach. So it wasn't really about making laughter, but I definitely did have moments where I was like, this should be less serious, because, if I just give people, a whole play of sad, then they're just gonna leave it without truly thinking about the themes.
Also, they kind of get it after a while, right?
Yeah.
I worked with a director once who said you should always leave the audience leaning forward. When they settle back in their chair, then you've lost them. They've got ahead of you. In other words, tell us one more time your name, your school, the title of your play.
My name is Tate Capes. I'm a sophomore at Millbrook High School, and my play is called Orpheus.
Orpheus will open at Burning Coal's KidsWrite series this Friday night, May 23rd at Burning Coal. So thank you, sir. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing Orpheus.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have, I believe, two more.
At least we have Sheila and Noah.
Sheila and Noah. Welcome. Noah, let's start with you. Can you identify yourself, tell us your school, and then tell us the title of the play that you've written for us?
Hi, I'm Noah Howard. I'm a freshman at Willow Springs High School, and I wrote What's in a Name. Okay.
And Sheila?
I'm Sheila Awasti. I'm a junior at Millbrook High School, and I wrote the play Titanium Lovers.
Which I'm hearing a lot about. Titanium Lovers sounds, just right off the bat, sounds like a sci-fi story. Is it a sci-fi story?
In a way, it is set in the future in 2050. The place, it's a pretty short play, but it skips through time periods, so you can see the development of my main character over the years. But my main goal with my play, it's a critique on our dependence on technology as a society and how we're increasingly becoming more and more isolated. Every day I hear stories about people talking to AI and finding companionship with them, and that's one of the main themes in it, and how our consumption is leading to environmental decay.
You wrote this by yourself, right? You were not working with another writer in the school. And so where did the idea come from? Did someone suggest it to you, or did you think of it?
It started out as a short story for my English class. I'm in the IB diploma program, so we're encouraged in class to think about everything from a worldly perspective. So I was thinking about topics that I could write about that I was passionate about and that intrigued me, and one of them was our dependence on technology. And I recently read a story about children in Southeast Asia who are sent out to scavenge in technology wastelands, and how they were the cancer rates were rising, how they were getting affected every day, and that was that's what clicked for me, and that's what I knew I wanted to write about. And so my short story, it was for my English class, and then over winter break, I remembered, because I'm familiar with Burning Coal, so I remember they have a playwriting competition, so I thought, this is interesting, and I wanted to expand on it more, and add more depth to my characters, add in some more characters that I mentioned in my short story, but I didn't actually write about, so I thought this was a great opportunity to do that.
Sounds very interesting. Noah, tell us about your play, and where did the germ of the idea come from?
It's about a band who is going on stage in 10 minutes and they still haven't decided on a name yet.
Of the band.
Yeah, so they're arguing about it. I wrote it, I think, in one afternoon, like the day before the deadline, because I kept procrastinating.
Mm-hmm.
So I just
like the band members.
Yeah. I didn't.
Yeah.
That's ironic now that I think about it. But
and is that an experience you've had or nearly had?
Yeah, a lot of the time.
The people who are listening on the podcast won't know that you have a haircut not unlike David Lee Roth or somebody like that, which is very inspiring to me. Are you interested in music and playing in a band, or do you play in a band?
I play guitar. I'm not currently in a band, but it's something that I've enjoyed so far, and I've always really liked music. So the play is really just like a love letter to all the bands I've enjoyed. There's a lot of just different musical references in there of like the Beatles, AC/DC, REM, Jamiroquai, all the things I've enjoyed over the years.
I had you up to the last one, and then I lost you there. So, is that a more recent?
Oh, they made the dance song from Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, not so new, I guess. Okay, and Noah, had you written before in any form, plays or?
I've written 3 completed plays, including this one. I submitted The Burning Coal last year, and I was a part of that show, so that was a lot of fun. So that's why I submitted this year. I still have, I think, 2 or 3 unfinished ones that I need to get around to, though.
Do you see yourself becoming a writer or continuing to write as you grow into adulthood?
Probably. Maybe not as a career, but definitely as a hobby, because it's a lot of fun, of course. But a career in media is something that I've always been looking for, just not sure what position.
Would it be on a particular subject, like media talking about politics, or media dealing with the environment, or does the issue impact the form that your life will take in your mind right now?
Maybe. I think that's part of it. I've always more like an entertainment career, I think,
right.
like in movies or television.
Right.
Something
so
fun.
You might play in a band, you might act, you might write. Sheila, what about you? Have you thought about continuing to write? Obviously, you've done a lot of input, a lot of thought into it so far. Do you think you'll continue beyond high school?
Absolutely. I'm also an actress, so I draw a lot of inspiration for what I write from acting. Mm-hmm. I've always been a writer. I've written short stories, little works here and there, but they've never been finished works. Last year, also, I go to the same high school as Tate, so for my personal project as well, I wrote a play. It's very good, but I'd probably look back at it in the future and change some things.
Sure.
But it was kind of my jumping off point into the world of playwriting. It's called Driver's Ed, and
mm-hmm.
I sort of started to turn it into a musical. But I'm also very passionate about advocacy, about sustainability, about our food systems, and also about our dependence on technology. So I think in the future, even if it wouldn't be my main job, I would love to continue it as a side pursuit so I can continue playwriting and advocacy in the playwriting for advocacy.
Well, if you're a writer and are able to communicate ideas, then you're halfway to success as an advocate. But what would you be advocating particularly? Is it the environment? Is it AI? Or does it matter to you?
Maybe if an issue arises in the future, then I'd be writing about that. But definitely about our environment and maybe also about just us as people and how we're slowly losing touch with each other, and we're forgetting how to communicate, and we're not really being honest with ourselves with our reliance on technology. And I really my favorite thing about acting and writing is looking into the characters. So I think using my playwriting as insight into like the human character. I'd love to explore that, and maybe write just if I could act in it or produce works, it would be really cool.
There are more and more writers who do direct their own work and have become very successful at it, both in the film industry and in theater. But theater is the one industry where technology doesn't really wield much influence, I think. I mean, certainly you can do that, but you can also do, a play by Samuel Beckett that's just two people standing on stage in a garbage can or something like that. You don't need a lot of technology for that, but people will come and listen to that. And so I guess I wonder if there's a reason why you've gravitated toward theater as opposed to maybe writing for film or television or digital media.
I believe my play Titanium Lovers could be used in different mediums. Like, in my head, sometimes I imagine it as an animated work. Sometimes I see the characters as if they were in a movie or a short film. But, I mean, it also definitely works as a play because I wrote it as a play. But I think because I'm an actress, I have a background acting, that playwriting is really accessible to me because I've experienced working with directors and being on the stage. So I can envision everything and see it as if I were acting in my play.
We've asked several of your fellow writers, and so Noah, I'll start with you and end with Sheila. Have you any inspirations within the theater world that have sort of changed your attitude toward the theater or made you realize the value of the theater, or is it something that just you feel intuitively?
I think until like middle school, I really did not enjoy theater. It's not something I ever saw myself doing. Right. And then I think I accidentally joined a theater class in 6th grade.
He turned left instead of right.
Yeah.
There he was.
And my theater teacher really inspired me to get into theater.
How did they inspire you?
She was a little strict, but I think that's definitely what I needed at that time to get better and actually want to continue doing it.
One of my friends says theater has the best on-time delivery rate of any business in the world, and it's true. There's no other business that will do what it says it's going to do every time when it says it's going to do it, and this is true all over the world. And there is something strict about it. There is something disciplinarian about it, but somehow it's also free and loose. Sheila, we'll finish up with you. Any inspirations within the theater world? Playwrights, actors, directors, or plays that you've seen or read that moved you?
A lot of it for me is intuitive, but my high school recently did the play Radium Girls this fall, and that really opened my eyes into seeing how playwriting can be used as a form of communication about global issues. And my theater teacher is very passionate about doing works that are thought-provoking, deep. He does enjoy comedy, but that really inspired me because I want people to take away from my play. I want them to, I think you mentioned earlier, sit at the edge of their seats and not lean back until the very end. So I hope it is thought-provoking and it makes them think about what they're doing with their lives.
Do you know what propaganda is? Do you know what that means in the context of theater?
In the context of theater?
Yeah.
Not so much.
Well, it's the idea of telling the audience what to think, I think, rather than asking them a question. And so I guess my question is, how do you're so motivated, you're so clearly enthusiastic and motivated, which is fantastic, and God knows we could use a lot more of that in this world right now, but how do you tell a story without forcing your answer onto the audience? Or do you care about that?
I think there's not one specific goal that I want my audience to walk away with. I want them to interpret my play whatever it means to them, because there's so many messages in there that I hope that they're able to see. But if they don't, it's also, I hope they just enjoy the play for what it is, and they enjoy the story, the characters, just the overall play.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. You are, all five of you are terrific. I've been doing this is Abby's second year, but I've been doing this for, I don't want to even say how many years, but what I can say is this is by far the most articulate, well-spoken group of writers that we've had in this series. So I am going to go get my tickets now. Actually, I don't have to because I'm the artistic director, but KidsWrite opens on Friday, 2 performances only, 7 p.m. at Burning Coal Theater Company, and you can find out all the information about KidsWrite at burningcoal.org, or give us a call at 919-834-4001. Thank you all, and we'll look forward to seeing your plays.
Thank you.